After only 2 seasons in the NFL, Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow has risen to the elite tier of the position, managing to lead the Bengals to their first Super Bowl since 1989. With his quick success, you might be surprised to learn the star athlete is still living with his parents in Ohio. But I mean, when you love your hometown as much as Joe does, you might not be in a rush to move. In these videos, we don't reveal any addresses, and even though I've done a house tour of my own place, please do not show up at any private residences because it's not safe for anyone. Joe Burrow is living his dream. This second-year NFL quarterback has now led the Cincinnati Bengals to their first Super Bowl in decades after their recent victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. And while you think a man who's capable of accomplishing something like that must be living the most extravagant of lifestyles, well, as it turns out, Joe Burrow has his own idea of what celebrity life should be like, and odds are it doesn't align with yours. Since arriving in the NFL 2 seasons ago, Joe must be one of the most conservative celebrity athletes in the world when it comes to his spending the money in his expense account. In fact, he might very well be the only #1 pick in the history of professional sports that's still living in his parents' basement. Yup, Joe Burrow, the soon-to-be potential Super Bowl champion, still lives at home with his parents, totally avoiding the party-hard lifestyle of some of his forebears, like say Johnny Manziel, remember him? Come to think of it, Joe's probably got the right idea. Sure, he might be willing to drop a decent amount of cash on those internet-breaking fits, but he's not spending a penny on a house of his own, at least not yet. Instead, he'll spend the next few weeks waking up in his old bedroom as he prepares to take on the LA Rams come February 13th. Hey guys, it's Kara, back with another exclusive house tour here on Famous Entertainment, today seeing where Joe Burrow calls home. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit me up on Instagram to chat. Now let's get into this video. Joe Burrow is pretty clearly the pride of the Plains in Athens County, Ohio. I mean, how many other high school stadiums do you know bear the name of a recent graduate? While Joe was born in Ames, Iowa, his family moved to Southeast Ohio when he was only 9 years old, when his father was hired by Ohio University to become the Bobcats defensive coordinator. Growing up in his new hometown, Joe's parents always believed that their son would one day succeed in the world of sports. But at the time, they figured it would be basketball. In the 10th grade, however, Joe would join his high school football team, become the quarterback, and never look back after falling in love with the sport that he now plays professionally. Over the next few years, he'd throw 157 touchdowns and over 11,000 yards before being named Ohio's Mr. Football. Then, on his path to becoming a Heisman Trophy winner, Joe would enroll at the Ohio State University for 3 years before transferring to Louisiana State University, where he would go on to lead the team to the national championship. During his acceptance speech for the Heisman Trophy, Joe would be sure to shout out his roots and speak not only how much growing up in Ohio meant to him, but on how challenging it was as well. His words would reach the heart of people all over the United States, and shortly afterward, a former Athens high school graduate would start a fundraiser for the Athens County Food Raiser, which would bring in over 500 canned donations in just one weekend. Alright, now that we know how deep Joe's roots in Ohio run, what's his life like at home? You know, with his parents. While Joe was waiting to hear his name called in the 2020 NFL Draft, he was doing so from the comfort of his parents' living room in Athens, Ohio. After his name was called that night with the #1 pick, the local residents of Athens all hopped in their cars and took to driving past his place, honking their horns as loud as they could in celebration of what he had accomplished. While you might think getting picked #1 overall would make Joe move out of his parents' place as quickly as possible, you'd be wrong. And to be honest, I can kind of understand it because Joe's got a pretty cozy setup here that allows him to stay focused without getting sidetracked from his goals. For instance, instead of heading out every night to party, Joe simply spends most of his off nights at home enjoying his mother's cooking. When he's not scarfing down some homemade delicacies, you can probably find Joe playing a ton of video games. In fact, Joe reportedly still plays a lot of online games with his former high school friends. In terms of what his parents' home is like on the inside, well, what we know mostly comes from public records and a few candid pictures from Joe's Instagram account. According to property reports, Joe's place is a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bathroom residence with 2,661 square feet of space. Upon moving to Ohio in 2005, the family would pick this home up for a pretty reasonable $240,000. Today, it's estimated to be worth around $300,000. Although, I gotta say, knowing that Joe Burrow grew up here has just gotta increase the overall value of this place when his parents finally decide to move out. Not that that will be happening anytime soon. Instead, the Burrows are more than content to live in this home located on a cul-de-sac with just enough room for Joe and his family to go out back and toss the old pigskin around when he's got an afternoon off. Of course, the craziest rumor about Joe's house has nothing to do with his parents at all. Instead, it has everything to do with his apparent obsession with Star Wars. Not only did he once sleep with a Star Wars comforter, but he still has his Star Wars curtains hanging up. Meanwhile, the rest of the family home is filled with photos of Joe and his older brothers, especially in the gorgeous family living room where Joe's parents have been giving a series